Welcome to our channel. Today we're diving into the fascinating and slightly terrifying world of the International Criminal Court, also known as the ICC. The ICC is like the hall monitor of the world, except instead of giving out detentions for chewing gum in class, they're trying to stop genocide, war crimes, and crimes against humanity. But seriously, the ICC has a tough job. Imagine telling a world leader, a person with more military medals than a Christmas fruitcake, "Sorry, mate, but you can't just invade your neighbor for their delicious oil reserves." That's essentially what the ICC is up against every day. So, how does the ICC actually go about arresting these leaders? I mean, it's not like they have a SWAT team of international ninjas rappelling from the ceiling of the UN building. Regardless, stick around, because we're about to break down the whole process, from the issuing of an arrest warrant to the moment a leader finds themselves in a Dutch courtroom, wondering if they should have just stayed home and binged Borgen instead. Alright, let's start at the beginning. The first step in the ICC's surprisingly long to-do list when it comes to nabbing a world leader is the issuance of an arrest warrant. Now, this isn't your average parking ticket situation. This warrant is like the legal equivalent of a spotlight shining directly on you, except instead of being bathed in light, you're bathed in the judgment of the entire international community. The ICC judges, after meticulously combing through mountains of evidence provided by the prosecutor, basically say, "Yep, we've seen enough cat memes for one lifetime, time to get serious." And this evidence isn't just some blurry iPhone footage of a tank driving by. We're talking eyewitness testimonies, satellite imagery, intercepted communications, the works. It's like the ICC hired Sherlock Holmes and the Scooby-Doo gang to team up and solve a very serious and much less hilarious mystery. Once the judges have their aha moment and are convinced there's enough evidence to proceed, they issue this arrest warrant, which is basically a very official, very public document that says, "Dear Mr. or Mrs. World Leader, please come to The Hague, we've got cookies. Also, you're being accused of some very serious crimes." Now, here's where things get a little awkward. The ICC has all these rules and procedures in place, but they don't actually have the power to enforce them directly. They can't just send in the A-team to snatch a dictator out of their morning yoga routine. So, once the arrest warrant has been issued, the ICC has to go through the international equivalent of asking very, very nicely for help. They send out this request for cooperation, basically a strongly worded memo, to all 123 countries who are part of the ICC club. And this memo is basically like, "Hey guys, remember that arrest warrant we all agreed to? Yeah, so could you maybe, possibly, if it's not too much trouble, arrest that person for us? Thanks a bunch." But it's not just the member states they have to rely on. The ICC also has to call in favors from other international organizations like Interpol and the United Nations. Chapter 3. The arrest, from palace to prisoner. Okay, so we've got the warrant, we've sent out the awkward group texts, now comes the part where someone actually has to make the arrest. Sometimes the government of the country where the accused is hanging out will decide to be a good sport and do the deed themselves. This usually happens when said leader is no longer in power. Other times it's up to international forces, like those ever-so-charming UN peacekeepers, to make the arrest. These guys and gals are basically the world's babysitters, trying to keep the peace in some of the most volatile regions on the planet. But here's the thing. Sometimes, despite all the warrants and requests and international pressure, nothing happens. The accused leader just keeps on leading, like a student who refuses to acknowledge the detention slip crumpled in the bottom of their backpack. Chapter 4. Destination, The Hague. No, not the band. Alright, let's say the arrest goes off without a hitch. No sudden international incidents, no daring escapes involving helicopters and trained pigeons, just a straightforward apprehension. Now what? Well, it's time for a little trip to The Hague, Netherlands. Yes, the Netherlands, home of windmills, tulips, and now, international justice. Once the suspect is safely in custody, they're whisked away on a one-way flight to the Netherlands, where the ICC has its headquarters. It's like a very serious version of that show Cheaters, except instead of catching unfaithful spouses, they're catching people who allegedly committed atrocities. And let me tell you, the ICC spares no expense when it comes to their detention center. We're talking single cells, 3 meals a day, access to a gym, a library, even art classes. Chapter 5. The trial where justice sometimes gets served. Well, we've finally made it to the main event, folks. The trial. This is where the rubber meets the road, where years of investigation and legal wrangling culminate in a courtroom showdown for the ages. Now, the ICC trials are not your average episode of Law & Order. There are no dramatic gavel slams, no last-minute surprise witnesses bursting through the courtroom doors. It's a meticulous, often tedious process, with lawyers from both sides presenting evidence, questioning witnesses, and generally trying to outmaneuver each other. And let me tell you, the stakes couldn't be higher. We're talking about crimes that would make even the most hardened detective lose sleep. If the accused is found guilty, they're looking at a lengthy prison sentence served in a country that has a cozy little agreement with the ICC. And no, I'm not talking about a charming bed and breakfast in Tuscany. And there you have it, the process of how the ICC attempts to wrangle in world leaders and hold them accountable for some truly heinous crimes. It's a complex, often frustrating system, fraught with political maneuvering and legal loopholes you could drive a tank through. If you found this video informative and slightly terrifying, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content like this. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and for goodness sake, try not to start any international incidents.